Nobody expected a simple South Africa A versus Zimbabwe clash to spark so many conversations, but by the time the final whistle sounded, one thing had become crystal clear: the Springboks' future might be even brighter than anyone imagined. Visuals: dramatic stadium shots, slow-motion tackles, crowd reactions, players walking through the tunnel. In a game filled with rising stars, controversial moments, near hat tricks, and a red card that changed everything, several young players stepped forward and announced themselves on the big stage. Some delivered moments of brilliance, others showed maturity far beyond their years, and one player in particular suddenly found himself carrying the responsibility of leading the team when nobody expected it. And perhaps the biggest takeaway from this fascinating encounter was that South African rugby's conveyor belt of talent simply refuses to slow down. Visuals: Springbok highlights, World Cup celebrations, youth players training. But here's a question that every rugby fan should think about as we go through these performances: which of these South Africa A stars do you believe has what it takes to become a future Springbok regular? Let us know in the comments, because by the end of this story, you might have a completely different answer. Visuals: comment animations and close-up crowd reactions. South Africa entered this fixture with excitement surrounding several promising names. Zimbabwe's Sables were determined to challenge one of rugby's superpowers and prove they belonged on the bigger stage. And while many expected South Africa A to dominate, the contest still offered plenty of valuable lessons and unforgettable moments. Visuals: Zimbabwe players warming up and South Africa A team huddle. Starting at fullback, Luan Giliomee produced one of the most composed performances of the afternoon. It's impossible not to understand why many observers have already begun comparing him to former Springbok star Pat Lambie. Visuals: split-screen images of Pat Lambie and Giliomee. Comparisons can sometimes create unnecessary pressure, but in Giliomee's case, there are similarities that are hard to ignore. His calm demeanor, his decision-making, and his ability to execute under pressure all stood out. When Haashim Ahmed received his red card and South Africa suddenly needed someone to take control, Giliomee stepped into the fly-half role with remarkable confidence. Visuals: replay of Ahmed leaving the field and Giliomee directing traffic. There was no panic, no uncertainty, just calm execution. It's often said that great players reveal themselves in moments of chaos, and Giliomee certainly looked comfortable with the responsibility. Every kick, every pass, and every decision reflected a maturity that coaches dream about. For a young player, that composure is priceless. An impressive 8 out of 10 felt fully deserved. Visuals: slow-motion kicking sequences and teammates celebrating. On the wing, Jaco Williams reminded everyone why South African rugby continues producing dangerous finishers. Visuals: fast-paced running highlights. Throughout the game, Williams repeatedly appeared in spaces that caused Zimbabwe problems. His movement off the ball created opportunities, and his awareness around the breakdowns allowed him to exploit gaps that many players simply wouldn't notice. One of his standout moments came when he provided a superb offload to set up Imad Khan. It was the kind of skill that separates good players from exceptional ones. Visuals: close-up replay of the offload. But perhaps his finest moment arrived after Zimbabwe failed to clear effectively. Williams punished the mistake instantly, showing tremendous awareness and clinical finishing. These are the instincts coaches cannot teach. They are the instincts of natural try-scorers. Defensively, he was equally impressive, reading situations brilliantly and competing strongly under high balls. With performances like this, Springbok fans can feel reassured that the production line of elite wings remains incredibly healthy. Another 8 out of 10 performance and plenty of reasons for excitement. Visuals: famous Springbok wings montage. In midfield, Marcus Muller continued generating excitement surrounding his enormous potential. Visuals: Stormers footage and youth highlights. As the youngest player ever to debut for the Stormers, expectations have followed him everywhere. Sometimes those expectations can become overwhelming, but Muller appears unfazed. Opportunities to showcase his attacking brilliance were limited, yet when a loose ball emerged after a crunching hit from Siaya, Muller's rugby intelligence took over. He reacted instantly, diving onto the opportunity and scoring South Africa's second try. Visuals. Try replay and celebration. It may not have been the flashiest moment of the game, but it demonstrated something equally valuable: anticipation. Great players often arrive at the right place before everyone else. Defensively, he formed a strong partnership with Lukhanyo Am and rarely put a foot wrong. 7 out of 10 reflected a dependable and encouraging display. Visuals. Defensive tackles and communication between centers. And then there was Lukhanyo Am. Visuals. Dramatic cinematic close-up. World Cup winner. Springbok leader. One of the most respected players in world rugby. Amid all the youthful energy around him, provided exactly what South Africa needed: a calming presence. He wasn't flashy. He didn't produce outrageous moments. Instead, he did what experienced players do best. He organized, communicated, defended, carried, and quietly ensured everything around him functioned smoothly. Visuals. Am talking with teammates and making tackles. Sometimes greatness isn't about stealing the spotlight. Sometimes greatness is about making everyone else better. And throughout the match, was the glue holding things together. Fans had wondered whether his move to Japan would affect his form, but there were encouraging signs that his confidence and swagger are returning. He looked sharper, more comfortable, and more like the player who helped South Africa conquer the world. 8 out of 10 for the veteran who reminded everyone why class is permanent. Visuals. World Cup trophy footage. On the left wing, Jaco Williams endured one of rugby's cruelest afternoons. Visuals. Slow motion replay and concerned teammates. Before suffering an unfortunate injury after an accidental collision involving Emmanuel Tshituka's boot, Siaya had threatened to produce something truly special. Incredibly, he came agonizingly close to scoring a hat-trick. Twice the TMO denied him. Twice celebrations were cut short. Yet despite the disappointment, his energy and aggression never faded. One thunderous tackle on Dulan Utet directly created the opportunity for Marcus Muller's try. That hit alone demonstrated his hunger and physicality. It felt cruel that such a promising performance ended prematurely. 7 out of 10, but perhaps with better luck, the score could have been even higher. Visuals. Emotional scenes and medical staff attending. The biggest talking point of the day surrounded fly half Haashim Ahmed. Visuals. Suspenseful music and slow motion replay. Few players move with the elegance that Ahmed possesses. Watching him glide across the field is almost artistic. He produced a brilliant try, fooling defenders with a clever dummy before accelerating away. His attacking instincts and creativity were evident throughout. Visuals. Try replay. Everything appeared under control until one decision changed the narrative entirely. Deep inside Zimbabwe territory, Ahmed attempted a chip over the top. But in the process, he collided dangerously with Tapo Amafora in the air. The officials acted quickly. A yellow card became a red. Suddenly, what had been a highly promising outing became a lesson in discipline and decision-making. Visuals. Referee consultation and crowd reactions. Debate erupted immediately. Some felt the punishment was harsh. Others believed the officials had no choice. Rugby supporters around the world discussed the incident passionately. But perhaps the most important thing is that young players grow through adversity. Great careers are not defined by mistakes. They are defined by how players respond afterward. Ahmed's talent remains undeniable, and this experience may ultimately help shape his future. 5 out of 10 reflected both the brilliance and disappointment of his afternoon. Visuals. Ahmed leaving the field and teammates encouraging him. At scrum half, Haashim Pead once again demonstrated why excitement around his name continues growing. Visuals. Quick passing sequences. His service was sharp, his kicking accurate, and his tempo kept Zimbabwe guessing. His break around the fringes to score showcased excellent awareness and acceleration. What stood out most was how comfortable he looked within the structures. Young players often struggle with pace and pressure, but Pead appeared completely at ease. Even after being replaced at halftime, his influence had already been felt. 7 out of 10 and yet another reminder of the depth available to South African rugby. Visuals. Young Springbok prospects montage. Number 8 Fepsi Buthelezi delivered a workmanlike performance. Visuals. Powerful carries. The Sharks forward carried strongly, offered intelligent support lines, and even displayed some impressive passing skills. Nothing spectacular, perhaps, but reliability remains one of rugby's most underrated qualities. Coaches value players who consistently deliver their responsibilities, and Buthelezi certainly did that. 6 out of 10 represented a solid afternoon's work. Visuals: breakdown battles. Bathobal Helkani was among the most physical performers on the field. Visuals: heavy collisions and crowd noise. Time after time he smashed through contact, refusing to be stopped. His aggression on defense matched his attacking intensity, and he never looked overwhelmed by the occasion. There were moments where support runners might have benefited from cleaner distribution, but overall his impact was undeniable. 8 out of 10 and further evidence that South Africa's loose forward stocks remain frighteningly strong. Visuals: powerful carries and slow-motion impacts. Emmanuel Tshituka's story carries special significance. Visuals: emotional cinematic shots. By representing South Africa, he officially strengthened his ties to the Springboks, and supporters have long admired his relentless work ethic. The younger Tshituka brother has built a reputation for searching tirelessly for involvement, and this game followed that pattern. He hunted for carries, tackles, and opportunities throughout. 7 out of 10 highlighted another industrious display. Visuals: defensive efforts and support play. At this stage of the video, we want to hear from you. Which performance surprised you the most? Was it Giliomee's calmness, Jaco Williams's finishing, or perhaps the leadership of Lukhanyo Am? Share your thoughts below because rugby debates are what make this sport so special. And if you're enjoying this journey through South Africa's rising stars, consider supporting the channel with a like and subscribing so you never miss future stories from the world of rugby. Visuals: fan comments appearing on screen. In the second row, Ruben van Heerden quietly went about his business. Visuals: line-out footage. The lineout struggled at times, but not all of the issues rested on his shoulders. Around the field, he threw himself into collisions and contributed tirelessly. There were moments when he almost found himself crossing for a try, and while his performance lacked spectacular highlights, consistency remains valuable. 6 out of 10 represented a fair reflection. Visuals: forward battles. But perhaps the biggest story of all wasn't about individual ratings. It was about what this game revealed regarding South Africa's future. Visuals: young academy players and Springbok legends. For years, people have wondered how the Springboks would replace legendary names. Every generation eventually fades. Every champion eventually retires. Yet somehow South African rugby continues producing wave after wave of talent. It's almost unbelievable. The structures, the schools, the franchises, and the culture have created a system that constantly replenishes itself. Visuals: school rugby footage and packed stadiums. Matches like this are not merely exhibitions. They are auditions. They are opportunities for dreams to become reality. Somewhere among these players could be future World Cup winners. Somewhere among them could be the next captain. Perhaps even the next global superstar. Visuals: slow-motion celebrations and trophy lifts. Rugby history teaches us that greatness often starts quietly. Before Shakalisi became an icon, he was simply another young player fighting for opportunities. Before Cheslin Kolbe mesmerized the world, he was a talented youngster chasing a dream. And now a new generation waits for its moment. Visuals: historical Springbok footage. That is why games like South Africa A versus Zimbabwe matter so much. They are snapshots of the future. They offer clues about what lies ahead. They provide hope, excitement, and endless possibilities. Visuals: sunset over the stadium. For Zimbabwe, there were valuable lessons and moments of resilience. For South Africa, there was reassurance. Reassurance that the conveyor belt remains active. Reassurance that talent continues emerging. And reassurance that when the current stars eventually step aside, another group will be ready to carry the green and gold into the next era. Visuals: players applauding fans. Because if this match proved anything, it's that South African rugby's future isn't approaching, it's already here. And judging by what we witnessed, that future looks absolutely terrifying for the rest of the rugby world. Visuals: dramatic music builds. Springbok logo fades onto the screen, Crowd roar echoes, fade to black.